Art Christie, Drost, Rainison, Winverse. How are you doing today?
What's good? Doing good. Sun's out, buns out.
Nice. Way to be. Yeah, we have Anna Thinker who is off this week and Tom who is also off this week. They're both taking some family vacation time, so that's fun. But yeah, just a small crew right now. How you doing, Art Christie?
Just grab my coffee and ready to go here.
All right. And sorry, go ahead, Art Christie.
Yeah, no, nothing.
Okay, cool. Well, we can get started. This is our weekly all hands meeting. We're going to use this time to sync up on what's going on around BCard. We're going to eliminate blockers and prioritize work for the next week. And I ended up as well remembering what we wanted to brainstorm, which is how can we engage our members of our existing communities. That's something I think we can do much better. And it's definitely something that we're going to have to solve as we're moving forward. So we'll do that a little bit later in the discussion section. We'll have a little brainstorm. All right. On the like metric side, we had $965 in transaction volume. So this is plus 850. This is mainly driven by just like 2 users. So I would say that it's not very resilient. It's something that we need to improve over time. But that's what it is for this week at least. On the lead metric side, we have 4 new users, seem to be mainly driven by the hire execution that we did last week. So the hire community had a few people who were curious and joined up. We now have 5 communities deployed because we deployed hire last week, and 5 transacting users. You'll notice I changed that a bit. It used to be returning users. I'm going to say transacting users now because we have a little bit of better analytics, as I will describe below. 0 new money in the multi-sig this week. And hey, Tom, wow, that looks like an amazing lake to be beside. I think it might be a little cold to take a dip, but even just being close by is pretty nice. So that's a pretty cool lake if you guys haven't seen it in the chat over there. On the team-wide announcement side, so we did launch the hire community last week on Friday. We got 4 members, and none of them yet loaded their card. And we're going to discuss a little bit more how we're looking at solving that issue. So going through our milestones first, and again, we're aiming to create transaction volume, that's revenue. So we can do that in multiple ways, and one of the ways is to increase our weekly transacting users. We did do a production release last week. We launched the hire card, we updated the pool together art, we updated the welcome email for digital first cards, and we updated the support site as well. So that production went out on Friday. Yeah, we had a bunch of eyes on our new release as we launched hire. On the user analytics side, we can now see transaction metrics on a weekly basis via SQL. So we might add this to the dashboard a little bit later, but using this data immediately is kind of important as well. Just a little, one of the questions I had is of the users that we had, how many actually loaded the card? So of the 99 users, 30 have loaded the card with some amount, but it's obvious that at least 5 of those are just like test transactions that the banks kind of put in to see whether or not something has gone through. To connect via ACH. Anyways, so there is definitely a gap there in terms of loading the card, and there are only 9 users in general who used the card last month. And so we have, or no, not even. There was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 who used the card in the last month. And 3 of those are people on this team. Okay, so it's definitely we have some ways to go on getting to people to use the card on a monthly basis. And so you may ask, what can we do with this information? So the thing that we're going to start with is user interviews. So starting with those 30 users who have loaded, we're going to try to get a little bit deeper on user feedback. And in the past, we've done a kind of jobs to be done analysis. This is kind of a product framework for thinking about what people are using our product for in terms of the job that they're working on. And so for those 30 users, they actually got to the point where they loaded something onto the card. So they had some intent behind that. And we want to understand a little bit more the psychology and emotion behind it. And so we've done this in the past before we had a launch product. And now that we have actual users, it's good for us to kind of segment and drill down a little bit deeper onto the psychology of these users and see, why they did it. And also later we'll look at the people who signed up and didn't load their card as well, trying to understand why they didn't load their card. And I think ultimately it's really important for us to understand what people's needs and desires are, because that emotion is what we need to find a pattern in. If we figure that out, that's kind of like the lead into finding that product market fit. So we have sent out emails to those 30 users. Hopefully a couple of them will sign up for some user interviews next week. We've written the script, we sent out some emails, and then we're also going to check out for the other users why they didn't load the cards. Last thing on the product side, the Nouns card, Tom and I are going to work on this tomorrow. So Tom's going to be back tomorrow, and we're going to go through launching a card for Nouns, which allows them to acquire Nouns reward instead of Nogs rewards. So that's something that we can launch probably by the end of this week as well. All right, content funnel. Reynes, how's this going?
Sadly, this week I was not able to sit down with content funnels. Winter is coming, and I had to make sure that I have a job for winter so I can eat. So
Yep.
my last week was purely me focusing on that, but great success. I have a job and I have other projects, and everything is good. So next week I will turn my attention back to where I want it to be. But in any case, today I will have a call on Friday with Coffee. We'll resync, and I know this week's priorities. They are the same as last week's, to figure out how better we can engage existing communities, our current communities that we have added to our cards, our current partners, and maybe even work out a system or a process for how we do it when a new community shows up, so we don't step on this roadblock once again. And the other priority is the pitch deck, which I'm still working on. I'm sorry, Links, I didn't send you for review. I'm a bit feeling like it's not reviewable yet, so I shall do this week.
All right, nice. Yeah, and I think related to reducing our scope, I just threw up an announcement with the with a screenshot of the hire card on Farcaster, and that was it took me a couple minutes. I tried to do something with ChatGPT and create a new image and stuff like that, and after fiddling around with that for an hour, I was just you know what, forget it. I'm just going to do a screenshot of our actual app, and ultimately that was enough, right? And so I think we need to think about how we can reduce our time to communicate, because ultimately I can do it on Farcaster. I haven't been doing it on Twitter, but I think just taking some time and doing some reply guying and just this kind of thing on Twitter is also a good use of our time in terms of just making more people aware of us. But anyway, something that we can talk about a little bit more later. On the community funnel side, we did launch the hire community. So we had lots of eyes on Farcaster for signups. We still need to do our formal launch communication through email and X. For the Open Medicine Foundation, we had a meet with them last week, and it went well. They're a crypto curious community, I would say, in that they also take donations in crypto. And they are actually interested in creating a DAO, and they want to access a wider Web3 audience, which is kind of interesting. It's almost opposite of the crypto native communities we're looking at, who kind of want to get more members. And so they're going to get back to us in a couple of weeks as they think this through. But ourselves and the person who they kind of hired on their side to kind of go through this crypto related ecosystem, we both kind of agreed the first step is to just create a card and then do like a little co-branding campaign where we talk a little bit about how Open Medicine Foundation and BCard are kind of similar. All right. We have raised 200K. I am presenting BCard today at DAO Spring. Hopefully we'll get some OP. There are like 3 OP rewards for the 3 top communities. And so that could be up to 2,000 OP or as low as 0 OP. So we'll see as they pretend. And then Octant, I met with the accelerator yesterday. They seemed to really like us, but in general, I don't like to get our hopes up about these accelerators. They were telling me that it was ended up being very competitive, and that's something that every single accelerator seems to say these days. So yeah, we'll see. I think like I really made the case that they're aiming to fund public goods and be sustainable, and that is also our angle as well. We want to be sustainable too, and so I think that those are some things that could be our edge here. But we'll see. It's hard to say. And in terms of the websites, any updates on this, Reynes?
I have messaged Andy asking about if he delivered the final design to Bobo. Last I checked, Andy was finishing up and being ready to getting ready to send it to Bobo. I'm gonna message Bobo after this call as well on how's it going. But basically we're right at the finish line.
Sweet. All right. Great. Let's get on to Asana for our task perspective. And so role salaries, I'll duplicate this. 38. All right. Let's take a look here. All right, here we go. Come on. Okay, so I did spend time on BCard. Reyes, did you spend at least 5 hours on BCard?
No, this week I wasn't able to.
Okay, so Tom definitely did because I spent some time with him. Okay, and I'll leave it there for now. I actually don't want to do it this way going forward. I would rather just do it in the meeting notes, and we'll see if I can figure that out before next week. Moving down, August user email update for August 2024. So we're just waiting for how much this should be compensated. So I'll remove this from the all team projects and just wait. In terms of the Octant Accelerator, we're just waiting now. In terms of the Sunny Awards, oh yeah, so that is kind of, well, I need to look up on that, but I'm not quite sure what the next step for that. And the DAO Spring, that is actually today. So we shall see what happens today. DAO Canvas, oh, that didn't work. Anyways, I'll take a look. And this week, Pool Together, this is updated actually. So I think that, well, I think like the one thing about this is that you guys haven't actually communicated that we launched a Pool Together yet, right? We haven't created a launch video and all that kind of stuff?
No, we haven't, because there's a new design and I have to change the animation with the new design, and we haven't brought an email yet and all that. We have publicly we have announced nouns and origin.
Okay, great. So that and the higher community are both there. TechP, all team projects. TechP, all team projects. All right, here we go. And to this week. And to this week. And to this week. Okay, great. All right, so on this side as well, we have user analytics, which I'm still working on, but essentially we have this. Those who have loaded their card but didn't spend it, those who have some money but haven't continued, and those who are regularly using the card. So we know these three groups now. We need to get this group now, and then we're going to move on to user interviews. But I'm just going to like tighten this up a little bit, and maybe even put success criteria, add this stuff to dashboard. Okay, so that's the one thing that's missing, I will say. On the user interview side, we have we've started this as well. I've gotten emails and invited people, but we may need to reach out one-on-one with users. All right. So we're working on this as we go. Pull together community and hire community. We're just waiting on the launch. The announce community we're working on tomorrow. I'll stick it on the top here. And yeah, it's a lot of my tasks up here, it seems. I think some people are on vacation. But are there other things that people are working on that aren't here?
This isn't.
I guess the pitch deck from my side.
Okay. Is there an Asana task for this already, Reynes, or?
I think there is, but it's not in this week. It's somewhere because we have had the continuous pitch deck task.
Okay. In general, let's try not to have continuous tasks. So we can just create one if we can't find it. Yeah, I don't see one. So let's just create one.
Okay.
Pitch deck. And so we'll call it a partnership pitch deck.
Yes.
Right. And I'll also put it into the communication weekly so that we can have it there. And in terms of success criteria, create a deck which we can share with our partners that answers their questions. Should be very small, like 5 slides. Okay, make sense? All right, Drost, I saw that you unmuted as well. Did you have something to say?
Oh, all I was going to say, it's kind of tangential, but I am in production on several new episodes of the pod, and I'm just thinking about maybe doing an in-show ad read, and I hesitate with ad read because I don't want it to really be an ad read. I was thinking of maybe doing like a little, even if it was like a conversation with you, Links, just like a 15 to 30-second in-show ad. And I just haven't really thought deeply about what that copy should be, because you want it to be conversational because it's kind of in the middle of the show. But anyway, I was just thinking about that, and I was curious if that's something of interest to you, Links, that you'd want to maybe record with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's give it a go. Let's see.
All right. Cool.
I felt like I had you in here before, but I don't see you here now. Can you maybe send me your email so we can have this? So we can.
I should be in there. Yeah.
Maybe it was on something else. Sometimes I remove people if we need to have space for others. But yeah, it might be that you're in a sub community as well. One second, let me just check here. I think as well I have it here. Yeah, I have your email, so I'll just add you here. All right.
Okay, great. Cool.
Okay, cool. Success criteria.
That was it.
Awesome. Thanks, Drost. Yeah, it's good to know that you are recording again. Always good to hear the smooth sounds of Drost as I'm doing my chores and stuff. So,
thank you.
About how we can fit this in conversationally, record it, drop it. Okay, cool. Awesome. Anything else that anyone else is working on that should be on this list? I think Arkisti, you're actually working on the. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Arkisti.
Yeah. I was going to say that one of the things was like getting caught up on the compensation and accounting stuff, and I've got a couple questions and stuff, but like everything would require time. But maybe that's a good one topic for tomorrow's ops meet.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because that kind of has fallen to the side, but it needs to get activated.
Yes, I agree. Okay, so I think a good way for us to do that is to put it on this list as well. Okay, cool. Thanks, Arkisti. Yeah, this looks like a little bit more of an even list now. All right, let's go down to what we shipped last week. And feel free to add other things. I wasn't able to put things for everyone, but Tom and I released to production this week, which included the hire card, the digital first cards, the support site updates, the updates to pool together. So it was a good release. We also applied and met with the Octant Accelerator. So they are all about trying to bring together projects to go towards sustainability using growth. And so that's what they're aiming the accelerator towards. I also created our first get user interview script and emailed all the users who have ever loaded the card. I sent that out yesterday and haven't received anything back. So it may be that I need to poke people individually. So we'll see. But yeah, that's something that may be the case. I also created SQL analytics for our user transaction analytics, and this is what I use to get those emails. As well, it gives us a little bit more insight into where we need to spend our time on the product side. And so that's really important for us, and I'll be trying to put that in the dashboard hopefully as well. I also tried testing loading card from TriVault Bank, which is a bank in Canada that I use for my business. And it worked because they added these new American accounts, so that was pretty interesting. I also made an announcement post on Farcaster, and NF Thinker and I met with the Open Medicine Foundation. So we had a decent week in terms of what we were moving forward there. Anything else anyone shipped that they want to put here? All right. Now let's take a look at, so this discussion item, I think I remembered what it was. It was essentially how can we engage our existing community's members? So we have some communities on the app now. I think like a couple months ago, I was kind of saying we need a couple more communities, and it's true. We still do need a couple more communities. I'd like to see at least like 10 kind of really distinct different communities on our card. But we want all of them to be like good communities. But in the meantime, I would say we have 5 right now. So that's kind of like half of what we need. And I would say that we didn't really crack the code for any of them. And one of the things I've been saying is that we need like essentially like a case study, which shows that like this is how BCard can really benefit you. And we don't have that yet. So I think like the key for us is to figure out how we can get some of those new signups, because if we do, then it's also going to be creating new ways for us to drive growth. And so I think it's really important for us to figure that out. But yeah, I just wanted to have a brainstorm on this. Brainstorms, no idea or thing that you can say is silly. It's all pure creative energy. So I think like everyone would be great if you just unmuted and we could just start talking about it. Because I do think that as we put stuff out there, it creates more creativity between us. Yeah, so I'll start with just a couple things. I think like one thing is we could individually message / reply to people on social media and ask them if they would like to try the product.
I have an idea with this.
Yeah.
I think like, wait, let me formulate it. So I think the issue with our Twitter engagement is that we are pushing everything only through a branded account, and there are no humans except for Andy occasionally that people can feel like they can connect with. and maybe me and Coffee and probably you, Links, because you're already doing it, need to start looking into building our Twitter personalities, personal brands around communities and Web3 and financial tools and everything BCard connected, and start expressing opinions and findings and things like that, kind of amplifying the message through what people on Twitter or X are looking for.
Yeah, and so I put the expressing opinions finding related to BCard as a separate thing because I think like that's really important. BCard is unique, but we don't really share that uniqueness with people. We should regularly be communicating our hot takes or values or whatever, right? Like I think like in general, we kind of look at this differently, right? And so I think it's important for us to express these opinions.
Mm-hmm. Hey guys, for inspiration, wait. Oh,
Nice. The beach.
yes, best place to be in a meeting. Oh, it feels like the creative juices are already flowing.
Nice. Arkisti, do you have something?
One thing I was thinking about is, so when we're talking about, if we're talking about BCard on social media, like how much should we, like I'm kind of thinking about like the like mentioning like Taxman as a tool that's kind of adjacent to BCard, and maybe the use cases that, okay, so like you earn tokens, and then we're building tools like Taxman, for example, so that you can see like what your tax liability on the tokens, that the token that you're earning is, both from like spending on the card, but also like I guess assuming that it's a something like a higher or whatever, that you're getting it from other sources as well.
Yes, absolutely. So like using using our like Taxman and kind of like using that on social, or is it
just like
just that?
Well, because I guess I'm kind of thinking in terms of like the like the tool, the crypto tools aspect of the card, which I don't think we want to really emphasize. But the thing is that it's there's something there already, and if there's demand for additional functionality that the communities are looking for, then that's something that we can do if it's going to lead to more growth. But one thing that's already there is like the Taxman.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I think like Taxman and the vault as well. I think like a lot of communities could actually benefit from using BCard Vault, but they probably don't know about it, right? I think like in general, like a lot of things, like people just don't know a lot about us.
Yeah,
And
I guess to be fair, I don't really know much about the BCard Vault.
yeah, so it's a shared password manager, and it's a more secure way to share passwords in a community.
Okay, yeah. I mean, other than that, I didn't really know like how the like I wouldn't be able to talk about the use case for that. But
yeah, exactly. And I think like this is probably the bottleneck right now is we're not talking about these things. I think like in general, like that expressing opinions and findings related to BCard, it's something that a lot of people have said I should be doing more of on Farcaster. And it's just, it's felt difficult, but like, I'll definitely try to do it more on Farcaster and on Twitter. But in general, I think that we're doing things. I think like it's probably our biggest weakness right now is just that we aren't really communicating that well. And it's something we could certainly do better. And it's probably something that we should be doing in like a somewhat decentralized way. Like, I've mentioned this in the past, but like, Arkusti, if you're working on the payroll, you can just like kind of like post the payroll in the BCard channel or on whatever socials you're using. If you're using socials, I mean, you could just put it on Discord here, and then we could put it in. We could put it on Farcaster later or something like that. So I think like I think like that's something that we could definitely improve on. I mean, in general, I think like Taxman as well. The design's not really optimized in a way that people can use super well. And it was because we were working on some other things at the time, so I kind of just let the team just do it. But it's something that we could certainly make much, much better. So in terms of, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, maybe it's worth like kind of like internally or within the team, like dusting it off, like seeing how it works. Because it's my understanding now is that it's like there is an API, so it should be getting more up to date information, right?
Yeah. So like technically, it's possible to add way better information, like have better information. We have like an API and stuff like that. And I will also say that the UI is blocking it from doing some of these things. So like you only have a certain number of tokens you can actually select from.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, I think that there would be kind of a use case there that's in line with the because the card gives you tokens, so you're getting some tokens for that. And then if it's a community where you're getting, it's a token that you're also getting from other things that you're doing that the card holder is doing with the community, like either then it would be valuable. I mean, I guess like kind of the legacy example of that would be Bank, which unfortunately people aren't really too engaged about it at the moment. But like you're earning you're getting Bank for using the card, but you were previously also getting Bank for doing work and other stuff. So like it would be good to have an idea of like, well, what's my tax liability for that?
Yeah.
And obviously from the interchange, it's not going to be a huge amount from
but it's for other things, for doing work in the DAO, for instance. Yeah. And I think that that's kind of more the important thing. And so like this is something that we could traffic within a DAO, because for new contributors, it's pretty important. That's something that we could just be there like, oh, when we're at the pool together community call and someone just got like paid a bunch of pool, don't forget to check your tax liability, right? That kind of thing. Okay, yeah, that's a really good point. One thing that I was thinking is like, are there other channels aside from Farcaster and X that we could be engaging people on? For instance, DAO community calls. What else is there? DAO community calls. It could be stuff like I don't know, newsletters, like not ours, but cross post to another newsletter. It could be things like just basically, where do crypto curious people hang out? Where do people from these specific DAOs hang out? To another newsletter, community podcast, etc. Right? I think like we had been relying on channel on I guess like community champions, but can we make these inroads ourselves? Like for some of these other kinds of places where these DAO communities are meeting and speaking? I mean, I think one good example, even for Bankless DAO, like the Bankless DAO newsletter, I think Winverse, you're probably involved with this, but like we literally never have any BCard content on the Bankless DAO newsletter, despite the fact that like Bankless DAO gave us our first big grant. And literally the first Bankless DAO was literally the first community that we had in BCard, and yet we haven't even we are not regularly in that newsletter. And so I think like these are some of the things that we could probably do better, like more than just Farcaster and X. We should be doing other things too. Does that make sense?
It does. Only thing that worries me is that, like, I think a month ago we had conversations about do we have the capacity, like when we were talking about what about Telegram, and questions like that. Do we have the capacity for new communication channels when we haven't mastered the current ones yet?
Yeah, and so by channels, I'm not saying like creating new like properties. I'm speaking more about like, hey, are there other places that we can traffic our message without like creating a new property for us to take care of?
Yes, in that way, 100%. Conferences was an amazing way to do it. That's like crypto conferences is exactly the place where our target audience meets and talks, and
Yeah.
those are the places where they are open to new things and new projects and new ideas, but they are ready to receive shilling and shill themselves.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I was just kind of thinking about, and that's like how, like I think we kind of need to find the balance of like how we present in terms of being a crypto card, because it's not, I think what like so I think one big advantage that we have is that it's a card that's able to be issued for or it's a US card, and we can distribute tokens off of it, but at the same time, like there's a lot of people in the crypto community that are not necessarily eligible for the card because they're not US residents, or there's people in the community that are like really looking for that crypto card where this is a card where I can spend my crypto. But the thing there is that like that's kind of pretty there isn't really any like solution for that for US residents. So there's kind of these like there's not much of a space where there's an intersection there. So it's, I guess, trying to find the balance in the message, like where it hits on, where there is the intersection, like it's, the people that can, where it's people that can use the card, and there's enough of the crypto adjacent features that resonate with those people.
Yeah, exactly. I actually think like ideally we aren't known as a crypto card, like at all, because we're not. When people think crypto card, they're exactly thinking like it's a crypto spend card, right?
Yeah,
And like,
yeah.
and so I don't think
so
we should try to position ourselves as a crypto card. I think you're absolutely right with that, R50. And that leaves the question, what do we present ourselves as, right? And I think like even some of the things like these reward tokens and stuff like that, like people can get them and people can claim them and sell them, but like ultimately that's not what we really want people to be doing, because that's not, whatever. You can do that on a crypto.com card and you're actually better off from an individual perspective. So it's almost like we need to be so I was asking people like, oh, what kind of messaging would be more interesting? And they're like, people are actually, like, one of my friends was saying, people are actually losing money. Like, for the problem with me is that I'm actually losing money if I use this card, because on my card I get like 3% cash back. So to use your card, I would actually be losing money. So I have to have like some other reason to use it other than money. And so communicating some reason to use the card other than money. Like they were saying, like, for instance, like the bankless message, banks are pretty much screwing us. We shouldn't use their products, right? So that's like one message, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, and I think that goes back to like I think one of the original premises was like taking money, taking moving, part of the interchange from the banking system to, a new place. And kind of like by doing that, you're kind of being part of I don't know if I want to, like, it's sort of a rebellious move in a way.
Yeah, and I think like as well, like that idea of like that black flag, the black flag thing that I've been working on, like that, I think like hits the feeling of that rebellious move, like, hey, the system's stacked against you, do something about it, we're doing something different, right? We're not like every other card. And yeah, it kind of sucks, but at least you can do something. Like you using one of those chase cards and getting 3% cash back. Hey, guess what? You're propping up that system. Here's another way, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's, because the thing is that, like, it's, it starts off as a small drip from, diverting funds from the legacy system. But I think that, as one of the unlocks is if it is, getting to that first number where we bump up in the share of the interchange. I mean, that like increases that share like 150%. So that's a pretty big unlock if we get to that point. But the other thing is that, like, there's all sorts of, like, that 3%, or all those promotions and stuff. That's like through, a lot of that is kind of like sort of marketing spend on the legacy system, propping up those rewards. Now, wouldn't it be nice if we like start building volume and come up with partnerships and ideas and stuff that enable us to do that on the crypto side?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. This is a really good point.
And and I think
Put
that
that as a
there's
separate
these,
point. Can we create partnerships on the crypto side to bump up our reward percentages? Yep, that's a really good point.
and it may mean starting small, but it's like, hopefully the you kind of, it's like you've got like a stream, and you divert a little bit to a new, I guess I'm kind of thinking the analogy like a irrigation channel or whatever, and there's an irrigation channel, and then you like take a little bit off of it into a new field and start planting stuff, and it grows, and then at a certain point, like, you get more stuff going there, and building the community that way. I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but
yeah, it like starts as a drip, and then it like turns into like a torrent eventually if we do it right.
Yeah.
And I think like one of the some reasons to use card other than money. I think like BCard is not a product; it is a movement kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's really important, and I think it's actually something that a lot of people just don't know about BCard. It's like the product itself is like if you just look at BCard, the product by its own, it doesn't make itself. Part of the product is the way that we're going about it, is the fact that we're like getting money from TradFi and using it to empower communities. Part of the product is the fact that we are like a not-for-profit foundation in Panama, and that's just not reflected at all. Yeah, so that's really important as well. Any other things, Drost? I haven't heard from you at all. Is there something that you have any opinions on this? It's a brainstorm, right? So it's nothing. Can't say anything wrong.
Well, it seems like we should be able to get more boosterism from our friends in the space. I think like it just pops into my head. Humpty in our community call at BCard Bankless BDAO, whatever the hell we're called now. He's got Crypto Sapiens, and he's a noun. But I never, why aren't we promoting? And I don't know if we are. Maybe we are. And I don't know what Crypto Sapiens is doing in terms of their advertising side of things, if they're doing any advertising at all. But just like, I don't know, it just feels like, and then Adam Miller with Just DAO It. I know that Just DAO It is more of a vehicle for my DAO, and his only ad read is for his own organization. But I'm just wondering if maybe we can get some of our friends in this space to not have necessarily heavily promote it, but just include it in their rotation when they're talking about related projects or things that they support. And I don't know if it's where there's money sponsorship that would transfer. None of us have any money to really be funding stuff. Yeah. But I mean, kind of some reciprocal things in that respect. It just feels like we should be able to get some more traction that way.
Yep, I completely agree with you. And I wonder if it's also just like we're not doing anything worth talking about, maybe as well. Like that might be part of it too. Is that like, yeah, we would do promo for you, but like, what would we actually do? Like, what is interesting? I think it would be interesting if we were doing something like the best case would be that we're doing something that they actually want to talk about, right? And I think like that's maybe that is what missing. Maybe that is what is missing, but I'm not quite sure.
And then I had not one other, but I had another area of inquiry or thought, which is, trying to get people to use the card on a more regular basis. And while you're earning tokens, is it possible that there could be some kind of I don't know, like a reward threshold where you get like a raffle entry and some meaningful prize? And I know that then, or I shouldn't say I know, I would be concerned that that would run into prize rules and things like that in the US, and that gets complicated. But I'm just trying to figure out ways that would get people to want to think about using the card on a more regular basis. And it's like, each time you swipe, you get an entry in a raffle or whatever. I don't know, just trying to get it to be more top of mind and want to transact more. What can we do to make that happen? Because the tokens themselves don't, there's not a huge amount of reward there. What do they represent? And then just like was said before, and I think I even said this to you in one of our conversations when you were interviewing me, is that, these other cards, you're actually getting 1%, 2%, 3% cash back or whatever, but with BCard, you're not. So I'm sacrificing that cash back. And so what am I getting instead of that? And I think we need to articulate that better. I'm not articulating it very well myself, but that was one of the things that was an issue for me. It's like, well, I'm doing this to support it, but it's not really the best card for me. If I'm looking at all the features considered, whether it's travel insurance, travel protection, cash back, stuff like that, I don't get any of that stuff with BCard. And so we have to have something that the other providers don't have.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing we could do is engage with communities via contests. For instance, give away hardware, wallets, etc. So that's something that we could do as well. Just continuing to
merch.
Yeah.
There could be levels of merch that you could get based on transaction volume, or not transaction volume, but the most spend. Maybe there's perks, whether it's merch or whatever. That I'm just trying to think of something that they can get through using this card that you can't get any other way, or that you would have to
put in work to get.
Yeah.
And so I definitely think merch would be a good, because like merch is something that I would love to also just like have for people to like just buy if they wanted, right?
Right. Yeah. So you can buy it if you want it, or if you're using, if you're a high spender on the card or whatever, then you get these, whether you've got a relationship between the tokens earned and the reward level for merch credits. I don't know. Just trying to figure out a way that makes people want to achieve another level to get free shit.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. We're coming up on the end of time here. Any other ideas of how we can engage our existing communities?
I think it would be good to find a way to get like existing communities or new communities that we're adding to kind of have people in the community talk about the card. Because I noticed like 6 quote tweeted your announcement. But if stuff like that would happen, because I think that's that provides exposure like beyond what beyond from the team doing it. So if we can figure out ways to get more of that kind of thing happening.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like a lot of those people co-cheated me because I was in the higher builders chat and I asked a bunch of people to give me some like engagement love. And so that's what they were doing, I think. And ideally we could be like I think in general, um the reason why people recast or requote something is because they agree with what it is or they very much disagree with what it is. And they want to express that opinion, right? And so that's why I think it's really important that we express our opinions, because it's only by being opinionated that we can inspire others to express their opinion. Does that make sense? Like opinions beget other opinions.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so like even like articulating what those opinions are, and that's why maybe it's really important for me to get deeper into the strategy doc, because that's where a lot of those like hard opinions are. And so I think we're doing. I think like it's not. It's I'm saying we, but it's also me. I think like we're not doing a great job of communicating, and that's something that we could certainly do better. Anyways, we're at our time, so I'm just going to cut it off here. But I just want to thank you guys for being here. It is a quiet week this week, but I think it's nice to have a smaller group in which we can do these kinds of brainstorms. I do think that we have something that is useful, and it's not useful in the way that every other card is useful. And so looking at our differences, looking at our positioning, looking at how we want to be seen in our users' minds, that's the path for us. Because not only will it inspire the users, but it's going to inspire our team. And I think like that's really important. We cannot convince everyone else to use this thing if we can't convince ourselves to use this thing. And as I said before, 3 of our top 5 users are part of this community. That's a good thing, right? Like that's not a bad thing. It would be ideal if we had even more people using the card, but I also think that it would be ideal if the people in this community are bought into the idea of using the card. And so I think like that's why I think it's really important that we discuss this, not just the product itself, but what the product can do, what the product can do for our lives and for society. Because if we come back to those basics, I think we've just been building in product for so long that if we have to take a step back and get back to why are we doing this? We always need that why. We always need to be able to understand it, and we always need to be able to rally around it. That idea of black flag, that is a flag that we plant in the ground, and it is a beacon for all like-minded people to come join us, right? And so we need to plant that black flag, and we need to rally around it. If we do that, we can change things. We can change the ills of society. We see that there is a problem, everyone who is here, and it's up to us to do something. We are the ones who have taken the step and said, hey, we want to change this thing. We want to do something about it. And so I think like let's try to remember that more as we're moving forward. The idea of being the change, and so that we can inspire ourselves, and through inspiring ourselves, we can inspire a potential audience as well. So thanks everyone for working on this with me. I really appreciate it, and it's only together that I think we're going to succeed. So I appreciate all of you for being here.
Thanks, Links. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Have a great day.